Welcome, second graders. Today you will need a piece of paper and something to write with, whether it's a pen, pencil, marker, or anything else that you have at your house. Today we will be drawing shapes. And in second grade, I know you learn about a lot of different shapes and their names and how to identify them. So hopefully you can use some of that knowledge today. To start out, the very first shape we're going to make is a hexagon. So we want to fill most of our page with this hexagon. I want you to start at the top and bottom with a horizontal line that goes about a third of the page across. So a straight line like this, and the same thing on the bottom in the same area, all the way across like that. Okay, next we're going to connect these two lines with a sideways V. It's going to go out and back in for the two sides of our hexagon. I'm going to start by finding the middle, going over to the edge, and drawing a dot near the edge. And then I'll connect from my dot to the end of my line. Like this. Okay, same thing on the other side. So I'm going to make my dot in the middle there, and then connect with both lines. Okay. So this is a hexagon. You know that because it has 6 sides. And then inside, in the middle of our shape, we're going to draw a pentagon, which means 5 sides, of course. So I'm going to help you draw this pentagon, and this will be the smallest part of our picture here. So you can draw it in the middle pretty small. So we'll start by doing a dot for the top, and then we'll go down to both sides, kind of like you're drawing little legs or an upside down V, and then we'll go down. Now this almost looks like we're drawing a house, except the sides of the house come in towards the bottom, and then we need one more side, right? Because that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So one across the bottom for a pentagon. Okay, so you might be wondering why we drew a hexagon on the outside and a pentagon on the inside. I just chose that today because I wanted to have 2 different shapes to help us get started on creating other shapes in the area. So what I mean by that is we're going to take each point of this pentagon and we're going to connect it somewhere to another point on the outside. It's not going to be even, of course, because there are 5 points here and 6 points here. And having it uneven is okay. That's going to get us started on our art. So I'm going to just start connecting my lines out to my points. You get to choose which points you want to connect. You could use a ruler if you have one for this part. I don't have one handy, and I am just going to draw it without, in case you don't either. We can be the same. But if you do have one, or if you have the side of something straight that you could use, then you could get that out and use it to make your lines straighter than maybe they would be by hand. Okay, so here's my first set of shapes. So if we look at this, right here, I have a quadrilateral, right? Almost looks like a triangle, but it's not because it has a 4th side right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then same thing here. It's a quadrilateral. Here, here, and of course this is a quadrilateral. Oh, you know what? That's almost, it depends if that line is straight or not. If it's straight, then that would be a quadrilateral, 4 sides. Okay, so the one shape I'm missing here that I need, and I need you to add, is a triangle somewhere. So for me, I'm going to do it by coming from this point and going straight up. So I'm dividing up my quadrilateral now. All right, now I have one triangle. 1, 2, 3. Now, it doesn't matter if you did different shapes than I did. You get to choose how to divide up your area, but I want you to make sure that you keep your pentagon. Don't divide that up. Keep your hexagon, and then you need to at least have some triangles and some quadrilaterals. They can be any kind of quadrilateral or triangle. So I'm going to show you what I'll do next. I'm going to take different lines in different places, anywhere, it can be anywhere. So for example, I could come from this corner and come straight to where that other line is. I just chose that spot randomly, and now I have a triangle here, and I still have a quadrilateral here with 4 sides. So then you get to choose what you want to do in each area, and it can be different or the same. You can do some skinny triangles. If you go from one point, I almost had to bend that one to make it work. 1, 2, 3 sides. It's not supposed to have curved lines. I kind of curved mine. You can do a line that goes right down and cuts something in half. Is starting to look like a candy corn. So now I still have a triangle at the bottom, but now I have a quadrilateral at the top again. Some kind of trapezoid, right? So, and then you just get to keep going. You decide where you want those lines to connect and what kinds of shapes you want to make. And it ends up kind of looking like a little bit of a stained glass window, or even kind of reminds me of a gem, like a diamond, when you see how it's cut with these different angles. So you decide when you want to stop. You can keep going and keep dividing it up smaller and smaller if you want, or you can stop right here. And then you have a few choices. So with coloring. Well, I'll write my name first so I can be making a copy. But with coloring, you'll be able to decide how detailed you want to be. So if you decide that you want to do a solid color in each of those shapes, then you can do that. Or you might want to take each of those shapes and fill it with a pattern inside. So maybe I'll show you some of both to see, so you can see what you like. Today I'm using colored pencils. Remember that you're always able to use whatever you have at home. So if you have paint instead, then that's great. You can use paint. If you have colored pencils and you want to do those with me today, great. If you just are working with a pen or a pencil today, then that will work too. You can take that and fill in these shapes with some of the designs that I'm going to show you right now. There's a lot you can do with just a pen or a pencil. But if you have at least even one color at home, then I would like you to try using that to add some interest and variety to your picture. Alright, so I'm going to show you first an idea that you could do. This was just a triangle, and now I'm going to fill it in with some smaller triangles, and I'm going to then shade it with a softer red so that you can still see my designs, but it's also colored in all the way. This is one idea. You could do this on all of your shapes if you wanted. Something like that. Another idea is you could take different colors for your designs. So what I'm doing is I'm starting by outlining the shape with my colored pencil a little bit darker. I just am doing that because I want the shape to really stand out. And then, it doesn't need to be straight lines inside. It could be curved lines. I'll show you mine here in a second. It could be full of patterns like polka dots or stripes. You could fill each shape with a different picture, maybe a different picture of things you like, animals or insects you like, butterfly. Let's do a curved shape inside here. If you are using lines like me, and I'll show you this in 1 second, then you can also remember that you can also vary the thickness of the line. So my middle one, I got that one a little thicker. I started to play around with the edges. That could be a fun thing to do to take your shape. Oh, I did this again. I did the same color again. I forgot I was going to show you different colors, so I'll do a different color in the background. But you get the idea. Okay, here's how that looks with a different color in the background. That's kind of fun. I wanted to show you that one. Let's be sure. Wanted to show you an idea about doing thick lines to thin lines. So let's start with the outside, and I'll do some thick lines out here. And then I'll get thinner and thinner as I go in. I think it's really fun to make art with these geometric shapes. If you are liking this, then maybe something else you could try is making a whole drawing just using geometric shapes. So you could look outside your window or look at something in your house and find a more complex shape like a car or a tree or maybe your bed or your desk or table, and then you can try to make it using just these shapes that you've learned about in math. And I bet you'll be able to do it. If you're just using the shapes with straight lines and edges, then you have to be a little bit creative if you're drawing a shape with curves like a tree or a car, but you could do it. You can find ways to do it. Okay, getting smaller and smaller here. All right, so here's an idea. So you can have thick, medium, and thin lines as well. It's interesting on this one, it used to be a quadrilateral on the outside, but when I came in, it turned into a triangle. That part became a point instead of a line. So maybe your shapes will change as you go. And do some different colors inside here so we can see what that looks like. We're exploring some designing today. Maybe you'll have an idea and you'll want to take that idea and use it all the way throughout your page. That could be a really neat way to bring unity to your design. Or maybe like me, you want to use it as an experiment and just try different things as you go. So I'll mix in a different color here too. You can see that. Okay. Then you can always step back and look at it and see which experiment or which thing you're liking the best and what you'd want to do for the rest of your art. I'm going to try a few shapes in just solid color. I think art can be very beautiful sometimes when it's simple and when there's just solid colors used. You can still use a lot of different colors and shades in different shapes on your paper, but they could all be just colored in solid, or dark on the edge and fade to light in the middle. Lots of ideas for that. Wanted to show you something on this one. With coloring with colored pencil, I've talked about this before. A lot of times I like to color the whole area going the same direction, because when you switch directions you can see it. But for these shapes, I'm also thinking it's fun to do a little bit this way, a little bit this way, a little bit this way, and this way, so it brings the shape into the middle. You can kind of still see that shape in the middle because I'm coloring those same directions. And on this solid one, I decided to do dark on the corners and edges at the vertices, and then got lighter as I came into the middle. So there's an idea for you too. Another idea. I think I'll try one that's just completely solid. Maybe I'll do the middle completely solid. No light or dark, just all filled in. It's kind of fun too, I like that. I'm going to do a couple more like that. So if I'm filling it in all the way solid, then I'm probably just going to go the same direction with my pencil instead of switching it, because I don't want different lines to be seen. I just want the color in one big block to be seen. Okay. Here's the bright one. Get my little pencil sharpener here. I like this small little pencil sharpener. It's metal, so just doesn't really break. It's nice. Hopefully you have a pencil sharpener of some kind if you're using colored pencils. Because they tend to break, right? And get worn down. Okay. See how it's fun to have those big, bold colors. But I think, it also is fun to mix it up with some lighter colors or some designs. So I'm really excited to see what you do. This is kind of like a quilt. It's kind of like putting the different pieces together next to each other, and there's not really a right or wrong way. There's lots of different patterns you could make. Just using our basic shapes, our basic 2D shapes. Along. If you're using some colors that you always use, then maybe you could try mixing it up with some colors that that you don't usually use. I'm kind of using all the colors right now. We're trying to use a whole bunch of different colors, but there's still some colors here that I don't use as often. And so maybe I could try to mix some of those in. But if you like what you're using and you want to keep using the same ones that you love, that's great too. Sometimes I notice that there might be a certain set of colors that I just always go back to. And it's probably just because I have some favorite colors. I love green and yellow and blue, and I love the colors that are maybe like the colors of fruit, like bright, juicy, springy colors. But then when it's autumn time, a lot of the colors I like are those colors of the leaves. And so sometimes my art will reflect this season. I think that's kind of a fun thing. If you're not sure what colors to use, you can think about what colors go with spring. And that can give you some ideas. There's so many colors in the spring with flowers blooming. I bet you've seen those all over the place. Lots of yellow, bright red, purple, that color. Pastel colors for the spring flowers. On this one, I'm going to add 3 colors and get a little more tricky here, a little more detailed. Okay. See how this looks. We've talked a little bit about the color wheel before in class, and the color wheel is another way that we can make decisions when we're choosing our palette or the colors we'll use for our design. If you want to, that can be a really fun way to do it too. So with the color wheel, there's a couple different strategies you could use. You could take two colors that are completely opposite each other on the color wheel. We call those complementary colors. And you could do your whole picture just using those two colors. You can use light, dark. So for example, if you did blue and orange, so you could use light blue, dark blue, bright blue, and then with orange, dark orange, light orange, medium orange, and that can create a really interesting look because you'll have the contrast there of the two colors. That's an idea to make it, to work with opposites. Another thing you can do that can create a softer, just a more beautiful, maybe harmonious look would be to take just a few colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So for example, if you wanted to, I'm using green right now, so let's say you chose green, and then you would use just only light green, dark green, medium green, and then what's next to green is yellow. So maybe a little bit of greenish yellow, some soft yellow, and then also what's next to green is blue on the color wheel. So, and then you could use some green blues, turquoise, and some blue. If you just used those colors that were next to each other on the color wheel, that would also create a nice look because it would be very harmonious because those colors are so similar that they almost blend together when you look at it. So it just creates a very unified look and a softer look. So it would be fun to see if someone chose to do their whole drawing colored in with we call those analogous colors, colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. And I just used those cool colors as an example, but you could do the same thing with red and pink, red, pink, orange, or purple, red, pink. Pink is not one of the main colors on the color wheel, but it is similar to red. So I think of those as well. You could throw that in there. So on this side, I'm trying to kind of show you what I mean when I have green, blue, purple, just these similar colors together. You can see how it creates a softer look. Whereas on this side, I've got more opposites going next to each other, and that's just a brighter, more contrasting look. So you can mix and match, do whatever you'd like. I keep going for these opposites here. So I had my analogous area, but I'll do another analogous section at the bottom with red and orange, but it will be contrasting with the top to finish off my shape that kind of looks like a gem or a kite or really fun quilt shape, quilt block. This is a fun technique too. You can take another color of colored pencil, especially an analogous one. So I did yellow with this orange and just kind of shade over part of it. I'll show you the same thing with this red square. I'll take a little bit of kind of a fuchsia, purplish pink, and just shade over a little bit of it. Kind of just makes it look almost a little bit 3D. So you see some different shades on different parts of the shape. Just kind of brings it to life a little bit. So see how I added some other color in there? There's so many ways you can do this. We've got the pure color, the mixes. All of these are great. You can do whatever you want. Okay, so I'm having fun with this coloring. I'm going to take a look at what I think I'd like to do for my background. It's actually upside down. This can go either way. I really like what I've got going on here as a central focus point. So you could decide if you want to leave it white in the background, if that goes well with what you're doing, or if you want to color it in, you may want to choose a neutral color for the background. So I'm going to choose something to show you that will be a little bit neutral. I think I'm going to mix a couple colors. So to make a neutral background, I'm going to actually choose two complementary colors, purple and yellow, and I'm going to do those mixed together. Because if you remember, when you mix two complementary colors, they cancel each other out. They make like a brown or a gray. And I could have just used brown or black or gray, but sometimes I like to stay away from using those and to be a little more creative with how I get my color. That's something that I had a teacher teach me once, and because they talked about how when you use black, it can just take the intensity of the picture down, kind of make it feel more dead, the colors more dead. And so if you can find other ways to do it, it can keep your picture looking a little brighter and keep your colors tied together. So I'm going to try that today. Switch this around. Hopefully you have something that you're drawing on that allows you to go off the page. So remember, it can just be another piece of paper underneath that you can pull off to the side to let you color all the way to the edge of your paper. We don't want to just have to stop right here on the side. You know, we want to be able to go all the way off. That. It's kind of fun to see what it looks like with the background. It looked cool white, but I'm glad I took it a step further. I wasn't sure if I was going to, and I hope that maybe that's something that you will do too. Kind of push for one more step to make it look really nice and finished. I was surprised by how I liked that, so I'm glad I tried it. Hopefully you feel the same. And then if you don't like it, if you ever take another step with your art and then you don't like it, then it can just be something you learn for another time that you realize, oh, next time I think I'll do that differently, or maybe there's a way you can go back and change it. Art can be just a learning tool. We don't have to know exactly how it's going to turn out beforehand. And that is very comforting. Okay, let's see how it looks with my mixed colors. Remember how I was trying to kind of make a brownish color by mixing some purple and yellowish together? And so it still looks, it's kind of purplish, but it's definitely a neutral color. So you can see what you thought today with mine or yours, and you can always do more of these. You can try it again if you didn't like the way it turned out, or, you know, just say, wow, that was a great learning experiment. But I hope you had fun, and remember your shapes and their attributes. Remember to count the sides and the vertices, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.